episode of Better Than Yesterday. My name is Michael, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Daniel in the flesh here in Cape Town. And we are here today to discuss a topic that we wanted to almost trademark here at Better Than Yesterday. An interesting concept in self improvement, something that we'd like to term self, or rather life positioning. Daniel, what are your thoughts on life positioning? But maybe before we even hop into that, how's things been for you the first
Okay.
week here in Cape Town?
Yeah, so it's been storming, as you've probably seen
Yeah,
over the news or some feeds here in Cape Town. But it's a weather that I've missed, man. Like, I really enjoy being back and experiencing just a lot of rain as well during the winter. We don't get much of that in Namibia. Winter's usually dry. And yeah, so summer we get our storms and our rains and so forth. But it's been good to be back. I was reminiscing yesterday. Actually, went back to West Coast Christian School where we met and just saw that yeah, things change, but it doesn't change as much when you come back to similar places. What's cool about Cape Town is there's always developments going on. So when you come
busy
here,
city.
you see a lot of new buildings and a lot of new shops and even just different faces as well.
100% for the Knights. Good to have you back, bro.
Yeah,
The return of the prodigal son. Um, we love to see it.
yeah,
But yeah, getting into this is another sit down episode.
mm,
We did an episode like this a couple of weeks back when we were sitting there on the beach in Luderitz. But
yeah,
I think this is, yeah, I enjoy this kind of thing, having conversations. That's always what's been at the heart
yeah,
here of Better Than Yesterday. So, life positioning. This is something that I was thinking about earlier today.
mm,
And what this mainly looks like here, man, is setting yourself up for the future. One of our first videos that we recorded here at Better Than Yesterday was why you should focus on long term success
mm,
over the short term.
yeah,
And what life positioning is positioning yourself in a way that you'll be able to be successful in the long term.
mm,
And yeah, that's something that you do. This is what we are living out in our lives right now, man.
mm,
We're putting in work in upping our fitness. We just hit a gym session. We are going to seminars about finances and entrepreneurship
mm,
and all of these things. Just working on ourselves. Doing this, walking the talk of self improvement.
yeah,
And the interesting thing is that you don't really see the results paying off right now in your life. But I think the concept of life positioning is that what we're doing by doing all of these things, by leveling ourselves up, is positioning ourselves to be able to take the opportunities in the future
mm,
to become successful.
yeah,
Don't know what your thoughts are on that, man.
yeah. So is this that initial question you had as well is like life position defining it? So you've defined it pretty well, and I think why it might also be a topic that's on our minds currently is because we kind of transitioning
Mm,
from university to working or going into entrepreneurship. I know you've finished up with university last
100%.
year, had your graduation this year, and you've had a bit of internships that you've doing, and you've been going to like getting a permanent job now. But in this transitional period is it's a bit like when you're busy finishing up your grade 12 and you're looking at even during grade 11 you're like, okay, what am I gonna study, what am I gonna get into?
100%.
And then for your studies, once you're done with that, it's like it's a bit different because now there's not really something to look to until you further your studies, or perhaps in your career you've got certain ambitions of becoming a senior at work, becoming like a manager, getting one of those positions, maybe even working your way up to a CEO. So there's different ways to getting to it, and when you're this young, like our age, we might not necessarily know everything. We're living maybe what you're living, but we've been able to pick up a bit of knowledge over the years because we like to speak to older people and ask them certain questions, and
Always.
perhaps you do as well, and we can learn from each other, and that's BT why we in the journey of growing with our community and not just telling you how to do a certain thing, but initially that's why we always ask for comments as well on our videos is so that you can tell us what your thoughts are, so we can kind of discuss it. That's why we have a BTY community as well. But in this life positioning thing, we've got a few topics that we want to speak about. But I think personally, to set yourself up to get to the success, there's certain sacrifices that you need to make, and there's certain decisions that you make that's crucial currently,
Yeah.
that it's almost a make or break, because you can decide to live carelessly still and have a bit of like a mindset of, okay, cool, like I'm still young, I'm earning this amount of money now, so I'm gonna like live freely and spend as much as I can. And
Yep.
it's important to reward yourself, yes, but there's also ways of being able to save now, so that maybe when you buy your first property, you've got a down payment, or maybe
Exactly
you
that.
decide to stay at your parents, you buy a piece of land and you build your house like cash, so that you don't have a mortgage. So you sacrifice 5 years maybe, so that 15 years you have like, let's say a mortgage you pay over 20 years, you sacrifice the 5 years to build that property, then you've got that 15 years where you aren't paying any
100%.
mortgages, you don't owe the bank anything. So there's ways, that's like what we're talking about, life positioning. You kind of play a game of chess, and you
Exactly.
play it against yourself or against your future self. Kind
Yeah.
of, you can look at it like that.
No, it's so true, man. And yeah, that's the difficult thing is that, as we mentioned, man, sometimes in this journey of self improvement, I don't know
Mm,
about you, but you can look at all the hard work you're putting in,
mm,
and you can compare yourself to your peers around you,
mm,
and you actually aren't that far ahead,
mm,
based on all these things we mentioned, putting in the work. And we've spoken about becoming a generalist before, and trying to level up in all these various
different areas,
aspects
yeah.
of life. um, but we haven't actually seen the results for that yet. But I think, you know the key to success in life. We were speaking to someone just the other day while we were watching the Euros final,
Mm,
and something he said to me kind of stood out a little bit. And he was saying that you always just have to be looking for little gaps and little
mm,
opportunities like in the market. And that's the thing. You might find yourself in a place where you see a gap.
mm,
You might see like an amazing little opportunity in the business world where like no one else is doing this business
mm,
idea, and you think this is a great like opportunity to take. If I can just start a business and put this idea into action,
mm,
then I can be the guy that fulfills that little gap in the market.
yeah.
But the thing is, if you haven't been putting in the work to position yourself to be able to do that over the last 5 years, you won't be able to
Mm,
take that opportunity. If you don't have the
yeah.
capital to start the business, for example, or even the
Mm,
business acumen and the business knowledge,
mm,
or the confidence to speak well with others and be able to seal a business deal and
yeah.
convince investors to invest in your deal,
Mm,
these are all the kind of things that we are talking about. If you haven't positioned yourself, you won't be able to take that
yeah.
opportunity. Although you might see the gap,
Mm,
you won't be able to execute.
yeah.
So I think that's why, like, yeah, like life positioning is super important, and
Yeah, and it's exciting as well.
it is, it is.
Like I've noticed that in this period, usually that's where patience comes in, because you don't see the results immediately, and because being a generalist is you focusing on maybe five or six different things at one time. So you might be putting in time for reading certain books, going to the gym, working, studying, maybe doing stuff at church. So there's various factors, like the church can be like a social aspect as well.
Mm,
So you're focusing on five different things, whereas then you might find a guy that's only going to the gym and
yeah.
he looks a lot better because he's putting in his time only into the gym. Or you can find someone that's only putting their time into academics, but then they're not well rounded at the end of the day. It's kind of like the concept where first man says you have to be a seven in different areas,
Mm,
so that you average being a seven, because you might be a 10 year but you're a 2 year, then it averages like less than seven.
100%.
So it's important to make sure that in this you also gain knowledge. Like it's a time when you gain knowledge through networking, and also the type of content that you're consuming, the type of conversations you're having with different people,
Yeah.
because you might not see the fruits immediately. You're busy building a relationship. It's kind of like you're putting in the work in the background, but then in a few years, this work is gonna bear fruits.
It's good,
So
man.
it's almost like when you plant a seed, it has to go into a dark, dirty place, and then later on you see like the little, what's that thing called that
The
starts
stem.
growing, the stem.
100%.
It grows small and then it starts growing and it gets stronger and stronger. That's how you can see your life as well, the different areas. So
Mm. It's
it's
good, man.
important to be a generalist, but then also you can specialize in or put your focus more in one certain area that you want to grow in, but make sure that you don't neglect the other areas in your life too much.
No, it's a
And
good
that's
point,
how
man.
you can identify opportunities and be able to make yourself more useful in different areas, because at the end of the day, life out here is competitive, especially in the corporate world. We all might be graduating with accounting degrees, but what's gonna make the company take you over you? Like, if you've all got the same grades, like what else is gonna make you stand out? So
It's
you
that
have
life
to look at
positioning,
those
man.
little things.
No, exactly that. Exactly
Mm.
that. And another interesting thing is that you have to, we always speak about like vision as well.
Mm.
And I think you have to actually set out some kind of vision for yourself
Mm.
before you are able to do this whole life positioning thing as well.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, you might not be interested in, working with numbers and
Mm.
finance, for example. So you won't be able to, you might see a gap in the market for, something in that field,
Mm.
but you have to lay out for yourself exactly who it is you want to be,
Mm.
in a few years' time. I think you have to create a picture or even just have a clear idea of who it is that you want to be
Yeah.
in a few years' time. And that'll at least allow you as well to sort of pursue the right five or six things, as you
Mm.
mentioned.
Yeah. Because there's so much that you can do in this
Yeah,
day and age.
it's so true, man. Like you could be studying. There's like there's assets of self improvement that we don't even speak about,
Mm.
like learning new languages, for
Mm.
example, and like other hobbies. These are things that aren't part of our self improvement journey so
Mm.
much, but maybe for you those are like the five things that you want to focus on,
Yeah.
and it's all dependent on who you want to
Who
be.
you want to be. So you're kind of giving yourself that aiming towards something. Because you can't walk around aimlessly, then you're
Yeah,
gonna fall over the place. That's why if there's this new trend of crypto that's coming out, then you might just jump into crypto because
yeah,
you see it's a trend and it's easy money, or it's something that everyone's doing, so it might be secure. And then something else comes along and then you go towards that, but at the end of the day, you haven't built something solid. And that's also where you must build on a solid foundation. Like, what's your foundation looking like? This is basically the time that you build it during your 20s. I mean,
these years.
even starting at like 18,
Mm,
you kind of start like maybe doing the excavations, and then
mm,
now you start laying the foundation. So make sure it's solid and it won't crack under pressure that comes, because life throws pressure. Soon we can't stay at our parents' place anymore. We have to move out. We have to carry so many different responsibilities, and then your mind is focused with trying to make all of these things work. Whereas when you've now set your life up to a certain way to put things in place, that when that comes, you've already built that foundation so that you can continue building with these new dynamics that come into play. And then if you didn't do the life setup, if you just focused on having too much fun and you didn't
mm.
balance it out, you sort of get hit hard by life. Now you have to scramble to get everything together, and it's so much more difficult, and it creates all this chaos, whereas it could have been a bit more ordered if you thought of things differently.
No, super good, man.
Mm.
I had a question just on a bit of practicality
Mm.
in this. How would you say someone can intentionally go about positioning themselves
Mm.
for success in the long
Yeah.
term?
Okay, so if I look in my life personally, like what I've been doing is, and I've seen a few other young people also do this, is this sort of thing that you've mentioned, like going to various
Mm.
seminars and meetings on different topics. So we've done agriculture, we've done finance, we've like I've gone to agricultural events. I might not use that knowledge now, but I know in the future I do see myself being in a certain area where it would be very useful to have the networks that I built that day
Mm.
at the agricultural space.
Yeah.
So that's how you can do it. You can put yourself in places where you learn about what you want to become once you've identified the question of where you see yourself or who you see yourself
Yeah.
as. And then when you've identified that, like you said, those five, six things you kind of now you put like a certain limit to how much you deal with, and you deal with those five or six things that's going to put you in that place that you want to be, or where you see yourself. It kind of puts you on that journey.
That's good, man. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly it.
Mm,
Networking, super invaluable.
mm,
And I think, yeah, one other thing on that would be just being hungry for knowledge.
mm,
I mean, as you mentioned, the reason why you're going to that event is because you are seeking
mm,
uh, knowledge and wisdom that you wouldn't otherwise have.
mm,
So you really have to, yeah, just what, like you said, once you've got that vision, you will become, and if you really believe it in who it is that you want to be,
mm,
you'll become hungry. You want to learn more
mm.
about how you can get to that place of that person that you want to be in the future.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you have to really take it seriously as well. I think sometimes we can also like be dragged into like the mundanity of life,
Mm.
and you forget like how sometimes you're on fire is what I'm trying to say. Like sometimes you
Yes.
have that spark,
Mm,
and you must really try, and if you don't have that spark right now, try and ignite it within yourself by going to these kind of events and being inspired by other people who are in the game and who are really like doing this thing. I
yeah.
mean, the one seminar that I went to last month as well was also for me like really really inspiring
Mm,
to see entrepreneurs who are like who had been doing this for quite a few years,
mm,
and they were reaping the rewards.
yeah.
Ourselves, we were saying like obviously that we haven't really seen the fruits of our labors so much,
Mm,
but the thing is, these are people who have been through that phase already and have now gotten to the other side,
mm,
because of that positioning that they likely did in their own lives.
mm.
So yeah, just be hungry for knowledge, be hungry for
You
wisdom,
have to.
and yeah, take this thing seriously
Mm,
and like really light that fire within yourself,
yeah.
or maybe even underneath yourself. That's going to push you like to really want that and work for that in your life.
Yeah, and just with us closing off, we are gonna focus on this life positioning thing even more. So it's
100%.
kind of a series. This was the first of three, so we have another two that will be coming out. But I've got one final question for you: is if you look back now, what is something you would thank your younger self for that he did maybe 3 or 5 years ago that you are reaping now? Something beneficial.
Sure. you know I think the answer to that question for myself, and we often speak on this channel about, okay, we want to go into entrepreneurship, but what I would actually thank my younger self for is just not wasting time.
Mm,
um Straight, like for myself, going out of university, a lot of friends didn't go straight into studying
mm,
and took gap years and that kind of thing.
yeah.
But I think one thing that I managed to do quite well in the last few years was just getting straight into things.
Mm,
Like I knew what I should do,
mm,
and I didn't like put it off.
yeah.
In that, like I got my studying done early. Like I finished my degree with like as I turned 21,
Mm,
which is young, yeah. And a lot of people, are still busy working on that, or maybe are still busy figuring out what it is they even want to study. Um, and even during that time, I wasn't just studying. I was, working jobs, getting experience, and that kind of experience to me was also like super super invaluable. The
mm,
experience that I got just from working part-time jobs. So that's the thing I would say is just for not wasting time and for just getting stuck in
sure.
and doing what I knew I should have done.
Mm,
So that's one thing, yeah, that I definitely thank my younger self for.
yeah.
Yeah, there's many mistakes probably made along the way as well, but I think that's one thing that I did do well in my early life.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's great. That's inspirational, and it's always good to look back and reflect on that and give you the encouragement
Mm,
to keep making decisions that your future self is going to be happy for, and that they'll can look back one day in 5 or 6 years and thank us now
so
for
true, man.
certain things that we started doing and that we kept doing. So it's important to really make sure that you take time before you make a decision, because it can be a make or break sometimes.
Yeah.
But thanks for sticking with us.
No, and hopefully right now we're busy making some decisions that in 5 years' time we'll be thanking ourselves for.
Yeah, true. Awesome.
But yeah, thank you guys very much for listening to this video and this episode of Better Than Yesterday. As Daniel mentioned, we'll be back for more of this conversation and getting a bit more in depth.
Mm.
And yeah, while Daniel's here in Cape Town, we'll hopefully be forming some interesting content, some daily short content as well. So keep your eyes for that. But yeah, if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing to Better Than Yesterday and following us on our other platforms like Instagram. We're also available on Spotify and all the podcasting platforms. So check us out there. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Much love.